Episode starts with the complete disappearance of the X-Men. Xavier's school is left in ruins, and the mansion that once protected mutant kind now stands completely abandoned. With the team scattered across time, Bishop discovers that they have been split between two different eras. One group has been sent to ancient Egypt around 3000 BC, while the other has been thrown into the distant 40th century. The situation is even worse because both timelines are connected by the same terrifying enemy, Apocalypse. Realizing time is running out, Bishop heads to the past while Forge travels into the future. Hoping to reunite the X-Men before history is permanently destroyed, Forge arrives in the distant future and is immediately attacked by Apocalypse's robotic forces. Before they can overwhelm him, Wolverine suddenly appears and tears through the machines, saving his life. Moments later, Storm, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and a young Nathan join the group. Although everyone wants to return home, Cyclops and Jean struggle with the idea of leaving Nathan behind once again. Forge warns them that remaining in this timeline could shatter history forever. They have less than a single day to restore the timeline before every era begins collapsing into chaos. Deep inside Apocalypse's massive citadel, one of his loyal servants delivers shocking news. They have finally found the perfect vessel capable of containing Apocalypse's immortal consciousness. The chosen body is none other than young Nathan himself. Apocalypse believes that by taking Nathan's body, he will finally escape the endless cycle of regeneration that has plagued him for centuries. Meanwhile, Cyclops and Jean privately discuss taking Nathan back to the 1990s, believing they deserve a chance to raise their son. However, the Askani reject the idea completely. Their leader explains that Nathan's future has already been written. He is destined to become the warrior who begins Apocalypse's downfall, and removing him from this era would destroy the prophecy that protects humanity. Refusing to accept fate, Cyclops and Jean secretly attempt to escape with Nathan. Before they can get far, Apocalypse's horsemen surround them and capture all three. When the remaining X-Men discover what happened, they fear Nathan's destiny has been broken forever. The Askani leader calmly reminds them that time always corrects itself. Everything happening now is simply another step toward Nathan fulfilling his destiny. The team immediately begins preparing a rescue mission. Forge repairs one of Apocalypse's abandoned warships so they can intercept the heavily armored train, transporting Cyclops, Jean, and Nathan to the Citadel. Unfortunately, the ship requires an impossible amount of energy to operate. It would need power equal to that of an entire star. At that moment, the Askani leader reveals an incredible truth. She intentionally brought the X-Men into this future because they would have died in their original timelines. By saving them, she also changed her own future. She then explains that she once encountered another version of Storm from a different reality who possessed the ability to channel the power of stars themselves. That means the Storm standing before them may one day reach the same unimaginable level of power. Inside the prison train, Nathan struggles against the inhibitor placed around his neck. Cyclops and Jean encourage him to fight through the pain and control his powers. At first, the techno-organic virus overwhelms him, making it impossible to break free. Then Cyclops and Jean finally reveal the truth. They are his real parents. Years ago, they sent him into the future only to save his life. Realizing everything his parents sacrificed for him, Nathan finally masters his abilities. He destroys the inhibitor collar and frees both Cyclops and Jean. Outside, Storm unleashes an enormous surge of energy directly into Forge's modified ship, charging it enough to launch toward the speeding train. As the vessel catches up, the remaining X-Men board the convoy and battle Apocalypse's horsemen across multiple train cars. Just as victory seems within reach, the Askani leader refuses to stop the train. Instead, she deliberately allows it to continue accelerating until it crashes directly into Apocalypse's towering citadel. The impact devastates the fortress. One of Apocalypse's servants urges him to flee immediately, but Apocalypse emerges from the destruction completely unharmed. Instead of retreating, he realizes the X-Men have become a serious threat. If he wants to destroy them forever, he must attack them before they become legends. With that decision made, Apocalypse begins traveling toward the 1990s. Nathan enters the shattered Citadel alongside the X-Men, unknowingly fulfilling the first step of the prophecy that will eventually bring Apocalypse's empire crashing down. Years later, Nathan has become Cable. He explains to Psylocke and Archangel that every time Apocalypse appears to be defeated, he somehow survives and returns stronger than before. Determined to stop him once and for all, they decide to recruit additional allies, including Jubilee and Sunspot. Back in 1997, frightened young mutants arrive at Xavier's ruined mansion, hoping to find the X-Men alive. Instead, they discover only destruction. Before panic spreads any further, X-Factor arrives to rescue them. Since the disappearance of the X-Men, X-Factor has become the government's official mutant task force, responsible for maintaining order. Jubilee watches reports of increasing attacks against mutants while growing concerned about the mysterious disappearances happening across the country. At that moment, Cable contacts her with an urgent mission. One of Apocalypse's horsemen, War, has begun gathering followers. If left alone, he could enslave hundreds of innocent people. Despite her doubts, Jubilee agrees to join Cable's underground resistance team known as X-Force. The team tracks War to a crowded carnival, where an explosive battle erupts among civilians. Jubilee and Sunspot work together to weaken War before Psylocke finally brings him down. Even after his defeat, War laughs and insists that Apocalypse's plans cannot be stopped. Furious, Archangel attacks him while explaining that Apocalypse completely controls the minds of his horsemen. Psylocke searches War's memories for answers, and Cable coldly orders Archangel to execute him. Jubilee immediately objects, reminding everyone that Professor Xavier never believed in executions. Cable responds that the world has changed. They no longer have the luxury of fighting by Xavier's rules. Cable leads X-Force to Emma Frost's exclusive party, hoping to uncover Apocalypse's next move. Emma greets them with amusement, revealing that she already knows about their confrontation with War. She admits that her only connection to Apocalypse's followers was a paid business arrangement involving a confidential shipment. Following the information she provides, X-Force infiltrates the location where the shipment was delivered, believing Apocalypse is secretly collecting advanced technology to strengthen his growing empire. As they search the facility, Cable discovers that every computer has already been wiped clean. He immediately realizes the mission was only a distraction, designed to keep them occupied, while Apocalypse advanced another part of his plan. Before they can leave, X-Factor suddenly surrounds the building after receiving information from Emma herself. The government orders X-Force to surrender immediately. Cable refuses, insisting they answer to no government while Apocalypse remains free. A fierce battle erupts between both mutant teams as former allies are forced to fight each other. Jubilee helps free her teammates from the ambush, allowing most of X-Force to escape, but she stays behind long enough to cover their retreat, and is eventually captured. Sunspot desperately wants to return for her, but Cable refuses. Jubilee is taken into government custody, where Polaris and the members of X-Factor question her about Cable's organization. They explain that the government believes controlling powerful mutants is the only way to maintain peace between humans and mutants after the disappearance of the X-Men. Jubilee refuses to betray X-Force or reveal any of Cable's plans. Polaris reminds her that Professor Xavier always dreamed of peaceful coexistence, but Jubilee argues that blindly following government orders is no better than becoming their puppet. Havoc eventually ends the discussion and orders Jubilee locked away with the other imprisoned mutants. Meanwhile, Cable reassures Roberto that Jubilee is stronger than anyone realizes. His confidence proves justified. Jubilee escapes her restraints, defeats the guards protecting the prison, and frees every mutant being held inside. At the same time, X-Force launches a coordinated assault on the facility. Together with the newly freed prisoners, they overwhelm the government forces and escape before reinforcements can arrive. The government responds immediately. Val Cooper publicly declares X-Force a dangerous criminal organization and announces that every member will be hunted down and prosecuted. The story then returns to Cable's painful memories. Years earlier, young Nathan received the heartbreaking responsibility of sending the X-Men back to their own time. He knew that if they stayed with him, history would collapse and humanity's future would disappear completely. Before leaving, Cyclops and Jean embrace Nathan one final time, telling him how much they love him before disappearing forever. Even years later, Cable continues carrying the emotional weight of that goodbye, knowing it was the only way to preserve history. The story shifts back to the beginning of Apocalypse's rise in ancient Egypt. Forge reunites with the remaining X-Men and explains that everyone has arrived at the exact place and time needed to repair history. Forge warns that interfering recklessly could destroy everything they sacrificed to protect. In ancient Egypt, Ensaba Nur marches beside Magneto while preparing to challenge Pharaoh Ramatut. Magneto encourages the young mutant to embrace the incredible power hidden within him, insisting he is destined for far greater things than a life of slavery. Inside the royal city, Ramatut detects Ensaba Nur's growing power using advanced futuristic technology and immediately prepares his army for war. Outside the massive walls, Ensaba Nur leads the Sandstormers toward battle. His followers see him not as a survivor, but as a leader capable of freeing their people. Watching from above, Magneto believes he can guide the young mutant onto a better path. Professor Xavier strongly disagrees, warning that Ensaba Nur is destined to become Apocalypse, the greatest enemy mutant kind will ever face. Magneto refuses to believe fate cannot be changed. The rebellion begins as Ensaba Nur's forces overwhelm the Pharaoh's soldiers. Their victories quickly spread across the battlefield, and Magneto insists every sacrifice is necessary to secure the future of mutant kind. Elsewhere, Beast, Rogue, and Nightcrawler continue searching the Pharaoh's advanced laboratories for a way home. Nightcrawler successfully steals several technological components, but Beast discovers the machines lack the enormous energy required for stable time travel. Charles explains that General Logos possesses the knowledge needed to activate the ancient technology, making him the key to their escape. Later, Ensaba Nur thanks Magneto for believing in him and helping him become a leader. Magneto secretly meets the other X-Men, revealing he has convinced Nur to spare innocent lives whenever possible. Their fragile progress is interrupted when Baal confronts Nur, accusing him of becoming weak by refusing to destroy the Pharaoh completely. Magneto argues that restraint is necessary to protect the future, but Baal threatens to execute General Logos himself if Nur refuses to continue the war. Afterward, Professor Xavier confronts Magneto, accusing him of manipulating Nur instead of helping him. Magneto insists the young mutant could still become history's first true X-Man if his rage can be controlled. Unfortunately, Nur's anger continues growing. When he encounters the cruel slave master who abused him as a child, Magneto desperately tries to stop him from taking revenge. Before the situation can calm down, the prisoner reveals the existence of a hidden cosmic temple containing unimaginable power capable of transforming someone into a god. Realizing that this incredible energy could also power their time travel technology, Xavier extracts the temple's location directly from the prisoner's mind. However, when the X-Men return to their laboratory, they discover Baal destroying the remaining androids while accusing them of using Nur for their own purposes. Furious at what he believes is another betrayal, Ensaba Nur finally loses control and kills his former slave, proving that his hatred can no longer be contained. As chaos erupts, Bishop suddenly opens a temporal portal and orders the X-Men to return immediately before history collapses completely. At the same time, Pharaoh Ramatut activates his powerful machines, while Ensaba Nur fully embraces the darkness consuming him. Standing on the edge of becoming Apocalypse, he unknowingly sets into motion the future that the X-Men have been desperately trying to prevent.